So the leaks for chapter 237 of JJK have come out, and let's just say these leaks are very insane, and we finally get to see the full-powered form of Sukuna appear. But before we can actually get to that panel, we're gonna have to start at the beginning of the chapter, and it actually starts off with Uraume finally coming back into the story, and she seems to be riding on this big piece of ice, and it's actually none other than Hakari that actually stops her in her tracks and decides to go into a domain with her, and he does succeed. He does pull her into the domain, but that isn't before she actually drops off a sort of cursed tool for Sukuna, and he ends up grabbing this. As he grabs the cursed tool, we see that Kashimo does arrive on the battlefield, and they're kind of dumbfounded. They're already getting there, and they're seeing Sukuna with this cursed tool in their hand, and they're thinking, whoa, you're already here. How did you get that so fast, and what is that tool in your hand? The interesting thing about this tool is that it's actually what Yorozu was going to gift Sukuna, so we finally get confirmation as to what the gift is that Yorozu was going to give him so many chapters ago, and it seemingly is this cursed tool, and if it looks familiar, it's actually because this is the same one that we've always seen that forearm version of Sukuna was wearing on that, certain cover. This is the same exact cursed tool, so it seems like maybe he lost this at some point, maybe he couldn't get it, and Yorozu was actually able to construct this item, albeit at the cost of her own life. We actually get the narrator in the chapter a couple times, and the narrator says for this cursed tool that it's actually named Kamutoke. And before we get on with the rest of these spoilers, can we talk about how interesting it is that we finally get to see one of the cursed tools, one of the items that Sukuna actually used way back in his full powered form when he was completely at full power, not the 2-arm version, not the 10 shadows version, but this is from his full powered 4-arm form. We're finally going to get to see that version fight, and I kind of spoiled it already, but we're going to get to that into the ending more so of the chapter, but we do get to see that full 4-armed form appear. It's also funny because as Sukuna grabs it, he literally says, this really brings back memories, so this is definitely what he was using back in the day, the sort of same exact type of weapon, and it seems like Yorozu somehow knew about this weapon, or obviously they did because they've seen Sukuna from back then, but they knew about the weapon and they were actually able to construct it, and this weapon has to be extremely powerful for what it does if it literally took the ending of her life in order for it to come to fruition, for it to actually work out, and that's how deep that binding vow had to work just to form this weapon. So this part of the chapter is extremely interesting for many different reasons, and I feel like I do need to break down exactly why Kashimo's asking Sukuna what he's asking right now in the chapter. Sukuna actually launches a sort of lightning attack out of the cursed tool, and it doesn't do anything to Kashimo, kind of just bounces off of him, but obviously it would do this. It's Kashimo, so the narrator kind of says, a lightning resistance, and it's at this point that Kashimo does start talking to Sukuna, and they ask him, did you become the strongest, or were you the strongest as soon as you were born? The only thing that Sukuna can actually say to this question is that he's not really sure, but he does know that he was an unwanted child, and Kashimo says that without knowing weakness, how do you associate with others? How do you show affection to other people? And he's saying that it's not something that I was actually able to do, and he said that anything or anyone other than me was honestly just kind of like a feeble thing of dirt. They were really nothing to me, and I'm just not sure exactly how I was able to maybe manifest any sort of feelings or anything for other people. And he's saying, teach me strength, loneliness, and he says, no limits. Seeking the manifestation of power is being left to continue to wonder, what the punishment is for being strong. So I feel like what he is exactly saying in the scene is kind of what Gojo is going through. I do want to make a full video kind of breaking down this, but I'm going to give you guys the kind of quick rundown on it very quickly in between these spoilers. But essentially, Kashimo is the strongest sorcerer of his generation. The same way that Gojo was the strongest of this generation, it kind of shook up the balance. That is exactly what Kashimo was for his generation, and because of that, he was actually not able to really be similar to anybody else, the same way that Gojo kind of struggled to become somebody that could really manifest or be in society with other people. It was the same way with Kashimo. He was so strong that he didn't really have anybody that he could relate to, and if we actually look back into the past when he did make that binding vow with Kenjaku, we can see that he was actually about to pass away of old age. So he was going to pass away of old age, and this is one of the things that even Gojo himself said that he did not want to happen. He did not want to pass away of old age because of the fact that he was so strong, and he was actually very happy that he did kind of find Sukuna, somebody way stronger than him, that was able to put him down and show him that he wasn't the strongest at all. This is the exact same thing that is happening with Kashimo right here. He was the strongest of his generation, and literally nobody could defeat him. Nobody was strong enough, and obviously there was no Sukuna at the time. Sukuna was still, kind of going through the process of manifesting himself back into the world, so there literally was nobody strong for him to fight, and he was about to pass away of old age until Kenjaku finally finally gave him the opportunity to literally come back and fight Kenjaku someday, or Sukuna someday. Basically, all of this is to say that Kashimo is literally the same exact kind of person as Gojo. He's somebody that's just too strong. He was the strongest of his generation, and he was honestly very scared of passing away and having not defeated anybody or getting defeated by somebody that could even match his strength a little bit. So he's kind of in that same form that Gojo was in, where he was like, you know, what is my existence? Like, I don't know how to really be similar to other people just because I'm so strong. And right now in this fight, he's hoping that Sukuna can kind of give him relief, show him that maybe, you know, he isn't the strongest and there was somebody out there way stronger than him, and he can actually pass away in peace the same way that Gojo did. With that though, we jump right back into the chapter, and Sukuna's talking to Kashimo, and he's saying that, you know, you're really asking a lot, and he's saying that even Gojo was kind of doing the same thing, and Gojo is being very greedy. So he's kind of just jumping on the fact that they're both literally asking the same thing, and it's just exactly how I said. They're both very similar people in the fact that they're the strongest of their generations, wanting to test out their strength on Sukuna, throw everything at him and see if maybe, you know, they are the strongest, or see if Sukuna can literally validate their existence. It's at this point in the chapter that we finally see Kashimo release their cursed technique, and it's called Mythical Beast Amber. And the translation notes themselves kind of say that it's kind of difficult for them to exactly tell us what's going on, but I think I have a very good idea of what exactly this cursed technique is and why it is actually very powerful. It seems like when he releases this cursed technique, his body literally becomes cursed energy, but also becomes electricity. So it seems like his cursed energy kind of transforms into electricity, and he becomes literally one with it. So he's at the same time electricity and cursed energy. So his body isn't necessarily a physical kind of construct right now. It's sort of a piece of energy kind of moving around that is electricity and cursed energy at the same time. We see that in this form, he's literally able to kind of shoot off shockwaves from his mouth, and he's able to literally transform his body into like different kind of shapes. And like I said, it seems like he's able to do this because of the fact that he's not really a physical construct anymore. He's literally cursed energy in its purest form, and that form is given electricity. In the direct translation of some of these kind of sort of byproducts of this ability, say that it literally increases the agility because it goes through his brain, and it also says that sound waves tune and optimize the natural oscillation frequency of matter. So it literally seems like he's able to just pass through everything. Like, he's just so fast, his brain is kind of working on overdrive, and because of the fact that he's literally energy himself, he's able to just freely kind of move through everything. So we can imagine that his speed right now is honestly insane, and we do see this, how he was easily able to hit Sukuna. Like, literally Sukuna almost couldn't even see it coming, and he was able to hit Sukuna. The narrator also literally says that his body has now surpassed that of human boundaries. And of course, it still does stand, and what he said was true. The narrator also confirms that he will actually crumble away once the technique is done. So you get an insanely powerful technique like his, where you're almost nigh invincible, nigh powerful, and you're not even physically there technically, but for the trade-off is that he does crumble away when it does end. This is of course the part that I mentioned at the beginning of the chapter. This is where Sukuna goes through his full powered form, and the narrator says that he does have a way of kind of getting back his full power without using reverse curse technique, and I'm assuming that it was the curse tool that he used that did help him do this. And we see at the end of the chapter, it's the full four-armed version of Sukuna, the most powerful version of himself, the form that we saw many chapters ago, and it finally does manifest. And he said that it was actually under suspension, so he wasn't able to use this against Gojo. He didn't want to, he wanted to wait. So it gives credence to what a lot of people were saying, that he was holding back a lot during the fight with Gojo, you know, for certain reasons. And it gives into what I said, where he used the 10 shadows. He would have been able to defeat Gojo had he not used the 10 shadows. It would have taken him more energy and more time. So he figured, why would I do that when I literally have the direct counter to Gojo? And I feel like that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not that he couldn't defeat Gojo without using the 10 shadows. He could have. It's just that the 10 shadows made it that much more easier. So why would I work harder when I have the easier method of defeating the person right here? And obviously this was intentional. Sukuna is not dumb. He knew that he would need the full powered form, or he would need to fight a different person maybe after this. So he figured, why would I use more energy when I can just do the easier method, defeat Gojo, and then, you know, go on with my next fight. That is where the spoilers end for this week. And honestly, this is very crazy. We're finally going to get to see the full powered form of Sukuna manifest into the world, and we finally get to see this insanely overpowered version of Kashimo go after him. So it's going to be a dogfight. I think this is going to be like very physical. It's not going to be like a lot of domains, a lot of anything like that. It's just going to be them straight throwing hands, I think, and I'm all for it. I really do want to see what happens next, but we're gonna have to wait for the next chapter to come out. But with that being said, this is an amazing kind of leak this week. I love the chapter, and I can't wait for the officials to come out so I can see all of the, you know, direct translations and everything. But with that being said, if you enjoyed these spoilers today, leave me a like or leave me a follow, subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for stopping by. With that being said though, I'm out. Peace.